What is up, guys? Welcome to the Edge DFS. We are talking Showdown, Monday Night Football. Cincinnati Bengals traveling into Cleveland. The Bengals are road favorites, -3.5. Ellie, what are your thoughts on this matchup, man? Let's talk briefly before we get deep into it here. Just looking from a bird's eye view, what are your thoughts on this overall matchup? Bengals -3.5. Do you think that's enough? I mean, the Browns are not looking too good this year. The Bengals are hot right now.
Yeah, look, the Bengals are hot right now. I think the biggest thing to keep in mind from the Cincinnati side, though, is just what kind of offensive line we're going to get tonight. Joe Burrow is just getting absolutely annihilated in the backfield. What does he have? 25 sacks taken this year.
25 sacks, yeah.
That doesn't even account for quarterback hurries, pressures, quarterback hits.
Yeah.
They're getting demolished, and this Cleveland Browns defensive line is pretty good. But, I think the thing that we're going to have to be mindful of is are they tanking? Like, is Cleveland getting ready to tank so they can, have an additional 4th or 5th round pick? I have no idea, man. They're missing a 1st round pick coming into 2023 draft. So, it's going to be an interesting game. And then last thing, man, this is a rivalry game. So regardless of what's going on, try not to get too stuck or married to your views.
Obviously, Jamar Chase is out for the Bengals. When it comes to the Browns, we've got some Kareem Hunt news, something to keep an eye out for. He's been on the trade, trade rumors are out there. Tomorrow's the trade deadline. Am I correct about that? Tuesday, trade deadline. So they're going to, there's a lot that can happen tonight. Either he gets traded during the day today, or why would you put him out here? If you're in talks with a team to trade him by tomorrow's deadline, why would you even put him on the field and risk injury and lose? You can get a 4th round pick for him potentially. Why risk that? You don't need to put him out in the field when you're 2-5. So that would be my thought, something to think about tonight when you're building lineups. You might not want to play Kareem Hunt, or you might want to at least wait until lock or till the inactives are announced and kind of see what's going on in the field. He might dress, but he might just sit on the stadium on the sidelines. And you might get a Dearness Johnson or one of these other guys that might play instead of him. We'll get more into that in a minute. But let's look at our, for Sunday Night Football, our optimal lineup here for last night. So Stephon Diggs, captain. You got Tyler Bass and Josh Allen. And then you got, on the other side, Aaron Jones, Romeo Doubs, and Samori Toure, I think is how you say it. If you had that guy, congratulations, you won money. But I did not play him. Did you?
I did not. I actually think I had him in one lineup, but that one lineup was an Aaron Jones captain, so it didn't necessarily work out. But look, man, what have we said before? You got to get weird. Last night was an interesting slate. I actually was doing pretty decent just by having the $200 placeholders in some of those lineups.
Yeah.
And that's really just because the fantasy production was concentrated to a handful of dudes, right? And then obviously that Samantha Tory touchdown or whatever the hell his name is didn't help anything. But I mean, the dude was 1% owned, 1.5%, so it wasn't too impactful.
Yeah.
But if you had him, you got paid.
Yeah.
Hey, hold on. Before we go any further on that, so speaking of Showdown, how'd you do on main slate yesterday, man?
Oh yeah, I did okay. I don't usually do a ton of main slate. I will do a bunch of like the 10 cent and 25 cents and do like a couple hundred lineups. I don't usually do a ton because we're doing these shows. I'm trying to get ready for Sunday night, but I ended up getting like 4th. I think I won two grand, like in 4th place in one of these contests. So it was actually a lineup that I just kind of I used it as a placeholder, like on Friday. Just kind of threw it in there. I looked at it on Sunday morning before lock, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep this. Let's just let it ride. I just kind of forgot about it, and I was sweating it the entire day pretty much. So we had, man, what's his bucket? Higbee got hurt. That was my only guy left, and I was in like 4th or 5th place, and the people in front of me really had nothing going. So I had Higbee, and all I needed Higbee was to do anything, and literally that. He came back from injury. At the end of the game, he had 1 catch for 5 yards, which put me back into the money. So anyways, pretty decent day yesterday. hoping to get another good day tonight. I want to win some Showdown, though. That's what I'm into right now. So Cincinnati going into Cleveland. There is some rain potentially. I don't think it's anything too crazy, but I don't know if it's going to be foggy. I don't know what's, you're where are you at right now? What's the weather look like in your area? I know you're not super close to
It's
that,
been
but
raining. Oh no, we're 3 hours from
oh, well,
Cleveland.
that's true.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, yeah, it's raining. It's been raining for a day and a half. It's nothing crazy though. It's just like normal rain that you would expect for the end of October.
Does it get foggy at night if it's raining where you're at?
Not It does, but not until it's colder. It's going to be a little
Okay.
bit before we start getting fog like that, I think.
So you're dealing with a
I
little
don't.
bit of.
I don't.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I don't know that there's going to be much impact here, but we do need to check as we get closer to lock, kind of see what the weather conditions are like, because it can change pretty quickly out here in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The wind. I looked up the wind. It's probably around 10 miles per hour. Nothing too crazy. I don't know what the gusts are going to be at, but I'm not too concerned about it. 45.5 total here. Most of the ownership going to Cincinnati. Obviously, T. Higgins and Joe Burrow are going to be the highest owned players. T. Higgins being the highest owned because he's just mispriced. We got the news about Jamar Chase being out. You got a T. Higgins at 8K. The guy should be in the 10K range if that news came out before the pricing, I'm assuming. So it's almost like a free square to me because you've got a high-powered offense going against a not so great team, like pretty good defense, like not in the middle of the road. He should be priced higher. We got to take advantage of that. Anything else to talk about here, or do you want to get into injuries?
No, let's get into it, man.
All right, so injuries. Ellie, would you read this for me real quick? I got to adjust the setting real quick.
Yeah. So we got out is offensive tackle Joe Haig. David Njoku, tight end, is out. And then we're missing another guard, and then corner Denzel Ward, which is obviously important from the Cleveland side of the ball.
Yeah.
As far as questionable, I think Greg Newsome being questionable and Greedy Williams, those are ones we need to keep an eye on. Greedy's one of their better cover corners, opposite Denzel Ward. Well, not tonight, obviously, but
yeah,
it will impact some of the coverages that they're able to put on the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, they could potentially be without their top three corners. That's not good going against this team. That is not good because they, despite having some injuries, they still have decent depth. I really do think even a guy like Mike Thomas as the third wide receiver could get some work in tonight. And then obviously on the other side, you're dealing with Jamar Chase being out. That's pretty much it there. So let's just get right into this breakdown. Give me 1 second here, guys. Let's see. We'll get into this breakdown. We're going to run through all this. If you guys wouldn't mind throwing us a like right off the bat, we appreciate that. Just hit that like button, subscribe, helps us out a lot. Let's do it. Break it down. All right, sorry guys. I don't know what's going on with me. Joe Burrow, 11.4K. Jacoby Brissett, 9,200. Brissett at 9,200 is kind of interesting to me. I don't think he's going to be high owned. He'll be under 40%. 40%. We don't need to talk much about Joe Burrow. Play Joe Burrow. I'm probably not going to have a ton of him in the captain spot. But Brissett is the guy we got to talk about here. Are you interested in him at 9,200?
Yeah, man, I don't think that there's much of a salary issue today with T. Higgins not being priced appropriately. And he's averaging, 13, 14 points per game. On a slate like tonight, that might be necessary unless Nick Chubb just absolutely goes off and there's no need for Jacoby Brissett. But at 14, 15 points, that's something that we might need to have into our lineups. I'm not necessarily interested in him at captain, but I'll probably have a pretty healthy exposure of him at the flex.
Yeah, I mean, look at Joe Burrow here, man. I mean, he, even if he's having a rough time, he's still getting there. 16 fantasy points against Dallas was his low, and then obviously last week he absolutely crushed with 42 fantasy points. Now, look, if he comes out and scores 42 fantasy points, you might need him at captain, but hey, maybe a lot of that's going to T. Higgins, and he's getting 6 points instead of 4 points for passing touchdown. So you might, to me, I'm going to be more interested in pass catchers and running backs in this game, not quarterbacks. But Joe Burrow will probably be right up there with the highest owned captain on the slate. Anything else to talk about? You want to move on?
I'm good.
All right, let's start with Cleveland. Nick Chubb is 10.4K, Kareem Hunt's 5,600, and then you got some, second, third string type guys at 200. So, like we talked about in the intro, if you didn't hear that, Kareem Hunt, he's on the trade block. He could get traded today. While we're recording the show, he could get traded, or he gets traded tomorrow in the morning. I guess my point is, I am not interested in risking any of these politics or behind the scenes things that happen in the NFL with playing time. If I play Kareem Hunt and he might not even see the field tonight, hey, maybe he does. Maybe he comes out and has a decent game. To me, I'd rather risk it. And, if he's getting 25% ownership, because I think the rest of the people are kind of cautious on him as well, the field is. So if he's getting 25% ownership and he comes out and does well, I don't think it absolutely ruins my night. So I'd rather just fade him altogether. So thoughts on that with Kareem Hunt? Are you feeling the same way I'm feeling about being kind of scared of playing him, because there's no reason for them to put him out there tonight. They're just not.
Yeah, if this was more like the slate last night where we didn't have soft pricing, I'd be more inclined to play him a little bit, right? Kind of like AJ Dillon. I threw him in at the captain spot, and it actually worked out. I was able to have a bunch of pretty high price guys in there. I don't think you necessarily need to do that today. Now, that being said, I do think he is a fine captain option if you are looking to kind of fade him and then maybe hedge yourself or hedge your exposure. Because again, there might be that narrative where they do give him extra run because they want to get better than a 4th round draft pick, right? They don't have a 1st round pick next year's draft, so it's just playing a little devil's advocate here. It is something to keep in mind. I wouldn't exceed my exposure to Kareem Hunt more than what the field has, but I'll be playing it pretty closely, pretty safely. I will have some lineups with him at captain, just not much flex for me. But if that's kind of where you're at, man, if you're not looking at Kareem Hunt as much, I mean, you've got to be pretty interested in one of these $200 dudes, right?
Well, yeah, we'll talk about them in a second, but I do want to talk about Nick Chubb. 105 yards per game this year. He's got 8 touchdowns, 5.9 yards per carry. Absolutely nuts. The Browns are 0-5 when he gets under 20 carries. They need to feed him the ball. The Bengals defense is giving up 4.6 yards per carry and 120 yards per game. So to me, that just signifies, hey, feed Nick Chubb the rock, give him 25, 30 carries, get him involved, bring Dearness Johnson in or Demetric Felton in if you're holding Kareem Hunt out. Bring him in for some random appearances, some third downs. But I'm all in on Nick Chubb. Dearness Johnson, we know what he's capable of. He filled in a few years ago. He's been on this team for a few seasons. He filled in last year and did well with all the injuries to both of the top running backs. He was on this team in 2020. He was 2019, 2020. He's becoming a veteran, and people forget about him. I do think that he could be on the trade block too. Dearness Johnson could be, if they because I think teams need running backs, and he is he could be a starting running back in this league. So they have him buried on their bench. I do think that he will get some play tonight, but that's just me guessing. So if you disagree with me, then don't play him. But I think that he can get some play. All right, let's move on to Cincinnati, right?
Let's do it.
Joe Mixon, 9,400. Samaje Perine, 4,800. He's always priced up for whatever reason. You got Chris Evans at 200. Joe Mixon is interesting. He's 9,400 in this game. He hasn't had the best season, though. He's 3.3 yards per carry on the ground, only about 58 yards per game, and only 2 touchdowns this year. He's not going against a great run defense. The Browns' defense is allowing 4.7 yards per carry and 135 yards per game. Neither of these defenses can stop the run. So Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon lineups together with maybe one of them at captain, hey, I think that's a huge, that you can get some good leverage there, because I think people are going to be focused on the pass game with Burrow. So I think you could get some decent leverage there by playing Joe Mixon, because he's hard to fit in with T. Higgins, Nick Chubb, and Joe Burrow. He's hard to get in there, so people might kind of forget about him. So thoughts on Mixon? He hasn't done great this year, but it's a good matchup, and I'm not interested in Perine until they drop him to 2,000. For whatever reason, he's in the 5K range almost every week. I don't know why.
Yeah, look, man, I think the important thing to look at here when it comes to Joe Mixon is plays under center, right? Cincinnati's been progressively running plays out of shotgun uh, or under center as the season has progressed. I think in week one, they had like 7% of their snaps were under center, and then 10% the week after. We talked about this in the last Bengals Showdown show. That's going to impact your running back's ability to average pretty decent yards per carry, right? I mean, 3.2, you're starting 5 yards back in the backfield. You have no running start, taking the handoff and trying to find a hole. But Cincinnati, I expect them to be under center a little bit more. They want to spread the field, get some of these get these wide receivers out there, and I think that's going to open up some running running room for Joe Mixon. But look, long story short, man, I'm right there with you. I like Joe Mixon. I think that the Browns defense kind of sucks dick. So Joe Mixon is in for a good opportunity here, and look, you want to keep the ball out of the opposing offense's hands. Nick Chubb has just been dominating everybody that he plays, right?
Yeah.
You don't want him to rush for 25 carries and 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, and run the ball effectively on the other side.
Yeah.
If they keep scoring, Joe Burrow puts up 350 yards and 4 touchdowns, and they're scoring quick. That's just going to open up more opportunity for the Browns defense or the Bengals defense to get tired and exhausted, just getting slammed by Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
So I think Joe Mixon's a great play tonight.
Yeah, I do too. I agree. Bear with us, little guys. We recording this in the morning. We don't speak English very well in the morning before 5 p.m. So forgive us.
Yeah.
Wide receivers. So obviously T Higgins mispriced. He's $8K. That's him as the second wide receiver. He's the number one guy in a high-powered offense. He's got incredible home run ability, and not even just home run ability. I mean, the guy can be a possession receiver if they need him to be. He is in a smash spot. To me, you'd be stupid not to play him, but hey, sometimes you got to get stupid to win. There is a situation where I could see you fading him in a couple of lineups to get different, but he's going to be 70-80% owned. And as a wide receiver, unless you're Devontae Adams or one of these top-end wide receivers, you don't see that ownership too often. It's just because, hey, he's mispriced. Tyler Boyd at 6,400, I like him a lot. He, as the number 3 wide receiver on this team, still does well. So you move him up to get him more opportunities, more targets. Also considering that, Cleveland is not the best pass defense in the world. So, hey, this is a good spot. Mike Thomas, 1,200, Trent Taylor. Talk to me about these guys. Obviously, T. Higgins is a big deal, but you got to like Tyler Boyd. You got to like Mike Thomas. I mean, they got to pass the ball around to these guys.
Yeah, man, Tyler Boyd would still be a number 1 wide receiver on a lot of teams. Imagine if he was on the Bears, right? He would be the number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
So I love Tyler Boyd. Like, let's put it this way. I will have a minimum of Higgins or Boyd in every single lineup. And probably a lot of both of them. On the other side of the ball, remember, Cleveland is potentially missing their top 3 corners.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are they going to do to stop T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd?
Yeah.
And, Higgins is mispriced if Jamar Chase is playing. I've been touting this like every time we bring up the Bengals, but he has very, 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 very similar stats to Chase over the past, 18 to 19 games. So it's not something that I don't know, man. You play both these guys. Joe Burrow's a fucking stud. If they decide to actually run the ball and run out of center, I just think it opens up so many more big plays for both these guys, T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, because they're going to be able to get open down the field.
Yeah.
But look, Mike Thomas, Trent Taylor, they're both in the mix. I don't know if you need to go quite down low to Trent Reznor down there at $200, but look, man, there's value, there's savings, and it's the same scenario as last night. If there's going to be a guy on the field that can catch a pass from one of these elite quarterbacks, you're never in a bad position to play him.
I guess the question here is who guards Higgins? Because like we mentioned earlier, Denzel Ward's out. Greg Newsom's questionable. Grady Williams is questionable. So if all 3 of those guys is out, I'm going to wait to see who's inactive in this game, but I'm going to cram these guys in. If you have at least 2 of those guys out, I mean, there's not going to be able to stop them. They're going to unload on them in the air. The only chance that the Browns have is if they can put pressure on Joe Burrow, and that's really the only chance they have. And if they can dominate the time of possession with Nick Chubb, that's the only chance they got. Let's move into the other side here to Cleveland. Not a whole lot to talk about here. You got Amari Cooper at 7,600. Clearly the number one target on this team. He's the kind of guy that gets you 10, 12 targets a game. Now, he didn't have a great game last week. He did have that one touchdown call back because of offensive pass interference, but he's getting opportunity. He's got 3 touchdowns this year. Nothing too crazy, but look at those targets, man. Jacoby Brissett's going to throw him the ball. Whether or not he does anything with those targets, that's the question. But I'm comfortable playing a lot of Amari Cooper, and I don't think he's going to be very popular. I think you put him at the captain. I think you put him in the flex. I think even if this team gets blown out, it's still a good game script for him to get garbage time receptions. 7,600 at captain, you could fit everybody you want in that flex. I really like him in this game, and no one else is going to love him. I think I love him. DPJ, 5K, David Bell, 2,400, Mike Woods, whatever. DPJ and Amari Cooper are the guys I'm looking at here, specifically Amari Cooper. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, man, I love Amari Cooper. I think that he's priced pretty nicely at 7,600. Can you pull up his numbers real quick again?
Yeah.
So Amari Cooper, it looks like he struggled. Was that Atlanta? Atlanta is one of the worst rushing defenses in the league. All right, I was just looking at some correlation to see if maybe I could find something. But look, I mean, Amari Cooper, his low target rate is, it's likely to do with inconsistency in offense. His production is about in line of what I'm looking for a captain. I think that he's an awesome captain play. If he gets those 10 target games and ends up with it's 7-8 wide receivers, 100 yards, or 7 or 8 receptions, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, at 7,600 he'll probably be locked down. Obviously T Higgins is my favorite choice there, but and then DPJ, I think he's another great play. I think you got to choose between both these guys, though. I don't know if you need a stack of Amari Cooper and DPJ, just given the amount of output that's coming from Jacoby Brissett and the Browns offense. But I'll probably have exposure to one of these guys. I do expect it to be moderately competitive, and one of these wide receivers is likely to have a touchdown, man.
Yeah, no touchdowns for DPJ this year, which that will change. I don't know when, but that will change. Look, Amari Cooper is going to have a tough matchup. He's going up against Awuzie, who's allowing only 40% completion percentage this year. So that is a tough matchup. But if he's getting 12-plus targets, chances are that you really only need him to hit one big reception for a touchdown at that price to pay off for a team that probably isn't going to score a ton of points. All right, so tight ends. So Njoku's out. Harrison Bryant is starting at that position, 4K. I don't think I love him really, to be honest. I mean, he hasn't really done much. There's some okay numbers here. If you throw him into the starting role and he's the number one guy at tight end, maybe he gets a little bit of boost in production. I just don't think I love him, but he's going to be under 20% owned, so if he does score a touchdown, probably not going to ruin your night if you don't have him. But I might just sprinkle him in, right? But 4K, I mean, would you rather get a kicker instead of Harrison Bryant? I mean, maybe in a game like this.
Maybe if we have a little bit of the salary. I think the kickers are priced up a little bit too. Again, I think they're closer to 4,400. But look, man, I don't mind a little bit of exposure to Harrison Bryant. I will say that the Bengals have been pretty decent at stopping the tight end. It might be it might be one of their worst positions when it comes fantasy-wise, but they're ranked middle of the league. At 4K, look, man, I think that he's a guy that you, even with the field, if you're doing mass entries, if you're doing a single entry or a couple hand-built lineups, I don't think you necessarily need to target him. But if he's a last piece because that's what you have, then I think you're fine.
I mean, this is Showdown, so we should talk about some of these scrub tight ends. If Pharaoh Brown is active and plays, I'm interested in a couple lineups at 200. I don't know who the hell Miller Forrestal is, Foreskin. He's $200. If Pharaoh Brown's out, maybe you might sprinkle one or two lineups in with Miller Foreskin. Cincinnati tight ends. Hayden Hurst at 5,200. Oh, he scares me because he is a touchdown threat. If you look at his numbers here, they're very up and down. But you get a 17-point output from a $5,200 tight end, right? $5,200. He's going to be in the optimal. It's going to happen. 8 targets, 7 targets, 7 targets, 8 targets. He's getting some run, and we know him. He was with Atlanta. He's been with a few different. He's been with The Ravens, we know what he is at this point in his career. He can hurt you if you don't play him. So, thoughts on Hayden Hurst at 5,200? I think he's going to get forgotten about.
Yeah, man. I'm right there with you. Like again, we're missing out Jamar Chase. It's a lot of volume being targeted to one wide receiver, and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd still get their run. So you gotta imagine that there's going to be some kind of softened. They're going to spread out where all those targets are going to be going. Right? They're not going to just double up the targets that T. Higgins gets now.
Yeah.
So that means you're going to spread it out. Hurst is probably going to get a couple more targets and a couple more opportunities. I like Hayden Hurst, and Mitchell Wilcox is probably only going to see 2-3% of the snaps, if any. So Hurst is going to be out there every play.
If they're missing all these corners, maybe they try to focus their defenses on stopping these top end, high speed guys, and maybe Hayden Hurst is just standing there in the middle of the field for 7 receptions at 10 yards a pop. It could happen. I think Hayden Hurst, you probably want to get a couple captains with him. Just knowing the fact that he could score 2 touchdowns, I kind of look at it as like, okay, can this player score 2 touchdowns? What are the chances of him scoring 2 touchdowns? I don't think it's out of the realm to see him score 2 touchdowns in this game. Probably not going to happen, but it's worth talking about. So kickers and defense, like we were talking earlier, you're right. They are priced up. 4,400 for Cade York, 4,600 for Evan McPherson. I think the ownership on kickers for this game is going to be a little bit lower. We've seen kickers in the optimal quite a bit lately. We got to talk about them. I made the decision to kind of fade them last night. It didn't really help me much. I kind of got screwed by that. So what do we do here? Do you take a bold stand, or do you just kind of be with the field?
I think you be with the field. I mean, if you start noticing they fall under around 5-10% ownership just because of where they're priced at, then I think you get a little bit of exposure. I do think one of these kickers will probably be in the optimal, but that's more because we have soft pricing this slate as opposed to anything else, right?
Yeah.
I take one, don't play 2.
All right. So, I mean, look, you could pay up $600, depending on what you got left on the table, and then just get Hayden Hurst, or there's so many other options that I would feel more comfortable with, but you gotta try to sprinkle them in. Defense. Browns defense 3,800, Bengals defense 4,200. Are you interested in any defenses tonight? I mean, it's a 45.5 total. I think that could hit the over.
Yeah. So look, hey, before we get too crazy here, I just keep in mind the Browns are starting Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. He has had issues, with fumbles and turnovers in the past. He's generally pretty consistent, but he's a backup quarterback for a reason, right? He's not supposed to be the starter. So I think Bengals come into play. And then even on the other side of the ball, man, the Browns defense, 3,800, it's not a completely terrible play if you're feeling a little bit frisky. I mean, look, if they end up with 6-7 sacks, which is very possible, they could end up in the optimal. 6-7 sacks probably turned into a couple turnovers as well. And I do think there's an opportunity to score on the defensive side of the ball because, I don't know, man, both these teams they're good. Like the Bengals are good, but sloppy.
Yeah.
They make mistakes. They give up opportunities for stuff. The Browns, they have the potential team at this point.
They have the potential to be good. They just don't have a quarterback. Well. Yeah, they don't have a quarterback. Yeah. And so I think the Browns could get a couple sacks. I mean, I think it's safe to say 4 sacks, 5 sacks. That's on the table. Yeah. That's what 10 fantasy points right there. What is it, 2 points a sack? I think, or is it 1 point a sack? I don't know. I
think it's 1.
Somebody
let's undersell just to be safe.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get to our Crown Their Ass segment.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
I don't know where my transition went there, but screw it. Technical difficulties. Let's roll with it. Higgins. Ellie, you're liking Higgins. I think you and the rest of the world like Higgins. I think on a slate like this, you don't need to get too creative at captain, potentially. Go with the studs. Find the value in the flex, and the pricing is pretty soft, so we can get a lot of our studs into this game. Boyd for me because I don't think he's going to be super popular. He might be like this, the 7th, 8th highest owned captain, and he's 6,400. That makes it even better in the flex. You need a touchdown out of him and maybe 6-7 receptions. As long as your other flex spots go off, you could be in a good spot. Are you interested in Boyd at captain?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think Higgins is probably more your safe cash play and just kind of your safer captain play in general. But Tyler Boyd is going to be in a position to tear it up, right? I mean, he's still getting 15% of the targets, even though you have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on the team. And Hayden Hurst is getting, what, like 15 or 16% as well. So they're doing a good job spreading the ball around. I think both guys are in play.
Well,
Another guy that I'm actually kind of interested in, man, sorry to cut you off,
no,
but
no.
like, let me know your thoughts. What do you think about Joe Mixon at captain?
Oh, I think I like him at captain. I do think that even if you do go pass heavy with Burrow and one of these guys, Higgins or Boyd or Hurst or whoever, you could still pay off with him at captain. I think 1-2 rushing touchdowns is possible. The hard part is he just hasn't shown it this year. We haven't seen it from him, but we know he's a top running back potentially. So I do like him at captain, and I will put him at some captain. All right, let's go to our fade here.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
All right, so I'm fading Kareem Hunt just across the board. Now, obviously, this could change as we get closer to lock. If there's some reports that come out that say he's not going to be traded or something, then yeah, they're going to use the hell out of him. Why not? This is his last year. You might as well beat him to the ground. But I think it's safe to say that I don't know that we're going to get any news tonight. We might not. So just keep your eyes open. But for me, for right now, I'm fading Kareem Hunt, and I don't think he's going to be more than 25% owned. So it's a little risky, but I'm going to just take a stand on that. Ellie, do you kind of agree with me on that?
Kind of. I am standing by the no decision for me. At this point, I think I'm taking a self-suspension from fading. Just ever since that fiasco was set, bro had 7 carries, 0 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, like, I just need to take a breather on it.
All right, let's go to our lineup build. I don't know what's up with that transition. It's like on hyperspeed. T. Higgins, this is if you click the button, this is what pops up. T. Higgins, Mike Thomas, Boyd, Jacoby Brissett, Joe Mixon, and Burrow. Hey, this is a 5-1. I think that I'm not going to do this because I do want to get probably 2 or 3 Cleveland Browns into the lineups. I don't know. What do you think about this lineup?
I might run it in a deeper contest, but I'm also kind of a psycho when it comes to running these dumbass lineups. But no, this probably isn't the best one to go. I don't think you need Boyd, Thomas, Higgins, and Mixon, and then running back with one dude.
Let's build quite a few lineups with Higgins because he's going to be popular, and I think we got to try to find a way to get a little bit different. So we could either leave money on the table, we could do a weird 2-4 stack, we could do different roster construction. So where do we go here? You want to just go Burrow right off the bat and maybe get our core guys of probably want to throw in at least Nick Chubb or Amari Cooper, right? So this is probably a good core to start with, and then we find the other 3 guys.
Throw in Amari. Let's see where we're at.
All right. So
and then I was okay with Michael Thomas. You wanna leave him in?
Yeah. Let's put Mike Thomas in. Nobody, the only reason I know this guy is because 2 years ago he was $200, and I think we got he was in the optimal a few times just because they had so many injuries. That leaves us with 7,400. What do we got going on here? We got a 3-2 right now, so we could either 3-3 it or 4-2 it. What does that leave us? 7,400. Tons of room here. You just go Tyler Boyd here. That's not bad.
Yeah, man, I really don't hate that. I mean, and then if you're feeling come off of, God damn it, we're just gonna end up building the optimal that they put out. I was gonna say come off of Amari and put in Jacoby and see what kind of salary we're left with.
It's the same lineup, yeah. So it was close. That optimal was close to what we're looking for. I don't think that I wanted a 5-1. You could obviously, if you like Kareem Hunt, you could go down to that. If you wanted to get Chubb and Hunt and Cooper, those are going to be the highest volume guys on that team potentially. All right, so let's get
weird with this build because again, T. Higgins is going to be 15%, maybe 20% captain.
Yeah.
So what if we fade Burrow and we go a 2-4, run it back with 4 Cleveland Browns, throw in Higgins and Mixon.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so in this case, let's throw in Brissett, right?
Yeah.
And that leaves us Mike Thomas.
Or D'Ernest Johnson.
Yeah, you leave a little bit on the table here a little bit. Go down to Johnson, depending on all the things we talked about earlier. Hey, that's not bad, man. T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, run back with 4 Browns. I like it. That's how the kind of weird you got to get. All right, who do you want to build with next?
Let's do a Joe Mixon captain,
Okay, Joe Mixon.
and then after this, let's do a Nick Chubb, just because we should probably he's going to be the next highest, if not the highest on.
Yeah, so Joe Mixon, let's do one with Burrow. Because like we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
I still think that you can pull that off. Obviously, a T. Higgins here. You could, if you wanted to save a little salary, depending on, you could go with Tyler Boyd instead. But for now, let's go T. Higgins and see how that works. You want to go you want to do like a Hayden Hurst or something? We got to kind of get in the middle road here first. Let's do Hayden Hurst. That's nice. 4 Bengals, run it back with 2 Browns. So I guess the question here is we got to decide, do we want to go Nick Chubb or do we want to go Amari Cooper? I think for this build, we probably want to go Amari Cooper because we're not going to have a lot of room left unless we want to punt. So what do you think? Cooper here, 3,700.
Yeah.
So that leaves us kind of in the same spot here. You could go down to Dearness Johnson. It doesn't do a whole lot for us. This isn't a terrible lineup. I don't really like it. I don't know.
Go down to Boyd from Higgins.
Oh yeah, sorry. Let me put Cooper in. Yeah, Boyd. And then let's go with Amari Cooper again. Let's see what that gets us. 5,300. All right, now that's more like it. So DPJ. Now I know we got 2 wide receivers without the quarterback. That could be weird, but I don't think it's the end of the world.
Well, DPJ hasn't been getting his touchdowns this year. So I mean, look, if you're looking at 5K, he gets 6 receptions and 120 yards.
Or you do this. Cade York. Amari Cooper gets you 9 receptions and a touchdown. Cade York gets you 3 field goals. That might be all you need. I like this lineup. Now let's pull everybody out here. Let's go without Joe Burrow. All right. So Mixon. Let's go Higgins. You want to do a 2-4? Mixon and Higgins?
Yeah.
All right, so let's run it back with Jacoby. Let's put in Nick Chubb. Does that get us Amari Cooper? That gets us Amari Cooper, man. And then you punt.
And I don't care. Rotate those punts, yeah.
And then you just punt here. Rotate this last spot out with any scrub that's under $700. And I think you're setting yourself up. All right, let's do. What do you want to do? You want to do Amari Cooper? Or no, we should do Nick Chubb.
Yeah, it's doing Nick Chubb.
All right, Nick Chubb, where are you? So he's the highest price captain that we built with. Let's see how this rolls. So let's go Joe Burrow, right?
Yeah, throw in Higgins.
T. Higgins. We're going to have to fade another one of these high-priced guys. Where do we go now? Do you want to put in DPJ? Do you want to put in Amari Cooper?
Yeah, let's throw in Amari Cooper, and then let's just see where we're at. And I think
7,400. So you could do Tyler Boyd here, and then punt. You can't quite get Mike Thomas, but you could get. Let's see. You could get like a Trent Taylor or something here. So it's that last punt spot again. So let me just I'll just plug in Dearness Johnson just to say it. What about instead of Tyler Boyd, we go Hayden Hurst? Save a little bit of money.
Yeah.
That gets us 2,200. So you're right back to Mike Thomas.
Which I don't hate, man. This is actually a pretty solid lineup. I would run this. But the thing is Chubb probably gonna be one of the chalkier captains, right? And there's only a certain amount of builds. If you want Burrow, Chubb, and Higgins, like this is pretty close to the variations you're gonna be getting.
Yeah.
So, just because we built this probably means a lot of other people built this by hand.
Could you get Mixon in here? Let's see. Okay, I know Higgins, we want to play a lot of Higgins, but for this sake, let's put Mixon in because I think Nick Chubb at captain with Mixon in the flex and Joe Burrow without T. Higgins, I think that gets you different enough to do whatever you want. Let's put in Amari Cooper again. Let's probably put in Tyler Boyd. Nope, we can't afford him. That's interesting.
Go Hayden Hurst. Oh no, never mind. That's too much.
Let me just hit optimize and see what happens. Mike Thomas and Harrison Bryant is what it wants us to do. I don't hate that.
Can you go from pull out Thomas and Bryant, throw in one of the kickers? Let's just see what it leaves us with.
All right, so
I think either kicker should get you to Mike Thomas.
Yeah, either kicker gets you to Mike Thomas. Man, Mike Thomas is the key tonight.
Yeah.
If he does anything, if he can get you 5 receptions and maybe 50 yards, that might be all you need. That's nice. All right, let's do one more build here. What captain do you want to do for our last shot here?
Give me 1 second. Let me look here. Let's do Tyler Boyd, man. Have we done Tyler Boyd captain yet?
Wait, we haven't done Tyler Boyd captain yet. Yeah, duh.
No, we got to do your guy.
Yeah, we got to do him. All right, Joe Burrow. Do you want to do Boyd and Higgins lineup?
Let's do it.
We got enough salary. Let's see what we can get here. So that
Throwing Mixon.
there you go. And then we can get either Chubb or a Cooper. Probably go Cooper.
Do
on
them
this.
both.
No, we can't.
Yeah, and then no. I mean, we'll rotate them.
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
you got Coop, and then from here you got Harrison Bryant, you got David Bell. You can rotate pretty much in that last piece, and they have a nice 4-2.
Or leave some money on the table. Go with Ernest Johnson. Let's go Nick Chubb. I think you just go Nick Chubb here, and then look who it is.
Mike Thomas.
Look who it is. It's like DraftKings wants us to play. Man, that's nice. That's not
Save
bad.
that shit.
I'm saving all these, dude. I enter all these lineups.
Oh, okay.
I always enter these lineups because, hey, I want to know if one of these goes off. All right. So, Ellie, now that we built some lineups, what'd you learn?
Mike Thomas will be like 95% exposed to me today.
Oh, man, that's scary. That's scary. But he's the number 3 wide receiver on a pass-hungry defense with no cornerbacks on the other side of the ball. So I like it, man. I don't think there's any risk of him being inactive. I think he'll be the number 3 guy. He's been on this team for a few years. That's my pick to score a touchdown tonight. What about you?
Oh, you beat me to it.
Why don't you go to Ernest Johnson?
I'll go with Trent Reznor.
Trent Reznor. All right. So last things to talk about, guys. Obviously, throw us a like. We appreciate it. But we do want to reiterate about Kareem Hunt. Keep your eyes open for any news today about him. I think there's some leverage to be had if you choose to fade him altogether because it's risky. We don't know the behind-the-scenes politics. We just don't know if he's going to even get an opportunity to play tonight. If he does come out and crush, he might be low-owned enough that it's not going to ruin your night completely. You probably can still break even. It all depends. So what's your thought on final score here? Are you thinking this hits the over?
Yeah, I think it hits the over. I think this is going to be closer to like a 30-13 game. I don't know if Cleveland has the juice to really hang on, and I expect Cincinnati to get back on track. Excuse me, Jesus.
Yeah, I'm going to say like 31-17 Bengals. I think the game can be kind of close, and then at a certain point, the Bengals they're just too much, man. I really do think that they're going to win this game. And yeah, man. So our next, what are we doing? Thursday Night Football next?
Thursday night. Is
right.
it a real game?
I hope so. I saw it somewhere. I just kind of forgot at this point. It's hard for me to look too far ahead when I'm doing research on one match, but we will see you guys for Thursday Night Football. Most likely that show will be out Thursday morning at about 8 a.m. Eastern, as well as the podcast will probably be out late Wednesday night. So if you want to get a head start, you can just listen to the audio version. Go follow us over there on Spotify, Apple Music, all that stuff. A little bit easier to listen in your car or while you're running around the house. I know that these are 40-minute shows. Sometimes you can't just sit in front of the TV or your phone. So check out those podcast versions. And like I said, help get us to 1,000 subscribers, man. We really appreciate that. We'll see you for Thursday Night Football.